Hi there, I'm James and I'm a business coach for massage therapists working with Massage Champions. My beautiful wife Alicia is the other half of Massage Champions, and I want to talk to you today about pricing, because one of the things that we strike quite often when we first talk to therapists who are struggling financially, which is when we often talk with them, is that they don't have a reasonable price point for the treatments that they're performing. And I can tell you that across Australia, there is a bunch of people charging all sorts of different things for massage, but the people who are charging a reasonable price point, who are charging say $80 to $120 across Australia, basically anywhere in that price range, depending on where you are, these are the people that don't have trouble with their businesses. They're the ones that have the cash flow coming through to be able to do the marketing, to be able to afford to make their clinics look good and feel good, so that they are the ones that succeed in their businesses. But often, to a brand new therapist, that kind of price point can be a little bit scary or a little bit tricky. Or if you've been charging way less, it's often, how can I increase my prices to that point? And I want to reassure you that it's literally just the price that you're used to. For someone as a buyer to a client, the difference between $70, $80, $90, it's only $10 or $20. If someone's going to buy at $70, they'll buy at $80. It's only a $10 difference. It's not that different to someone who is on board to buy a massage. And what will happen as a therapist, as suppliers, we often focus so much on the price because that's the part of the transaction that we want to control the most, or that we're most worried about. But in a transactional sense, a client doesn't really think about that as highly as you and I might expect them to. Most often they'll see an ad or they'll get referred from a friend, they'll look at your Facebook page or your website, they'll learn a little bit more about you, they'll think, oh, that looks really good, and my friend told me I've got to get my back fixed, that you'll help. They'll go to the online booking, they'll look at the price and then they'll book. It's like that last little part of the thing. And very, very rarely would anyone ever look at that and go, oh, I was about to buy, but now it's $5 more than I thought it was going to be. It just doesn't work like that. People buy when all the other things stack up. Price is the last thing that they look at. And another thing that I really want to draw your attention to, and this is even more important to grasp, is that for most people, price is the single easiest indicator of quality. Think about it. If you see a $100 TV as opposed to a $1,000 TV, which TV is better? Almost everyone would say, well, the $1,000 TV is obviously going to be better, right? It costs more. Now, without doing any other research, price is the single thing that we use to determine quality. So if you're charging less than every other therapist in town, according to that principle, most people are going to assume that you're not as good. And they might do the research, they might follow through and learn something else about you and overcome that, but it's still the very first impression you're giving them is that you're low quality if you're cheap. Instead, I want you to charge a reassuringly expensive price. Because if you are expensive, if you are as expensive as you need to be to make a living, to run a proper business, then that actually reassures people that you have quality in what you're doing. In fact, if there's 10 other therapists in your area and you price yourself $10 higher than everybody else, you're essentially saying to the market, I'm $10 better than everybody else here. And some people will respond excellently to that. I know for myself, I want to go to the best therapist in town. I don't want to go to someone just because they're the same price as everyone. I want to go to the best. How do I know you're the best? Now, without trying everybody else, remember, the simplest way that I can tell quality is by looking at price. So charge a reassuringly high price, reassuringly expensive, and give that confidence to your clients. Now, and obviously then when they come in, give them a fantastic treatment that's worth every dollar, and your business is on track for success.
Hi, my name's Stahl. I'll be presenting a hands-on workshop at the conference called Adding Kinesiology Tape to Your Toolkit. I'm a physiotherapist. I work in Geelong Monday to Friday, and then also work for Rock Tape to present conferences and present at courses and things like that. The workshop will be very hands-on. It will be an opportunity for people to hear about the recent research with kinesiology tape and also have a practice with applying tape for things like pain mitigation, how to cue posture, and even tape for inflammation. After attending the workshop, people should be confident to get back to the clinic straight away and be able to apply kinesiology tape to their patients for lots of different conditions. We teach a framework rather than recipes, so if we give you the concept of how to tape, then you can apply that to whatever patient's in front of you to try and assist them to improve their posture, reduce their pain, reduce inflammation, and just be a nice adjunct to your treatment techniques. Look forward to seeing you at the conference on the Gold Coast this year.
Hi guys, my name's Brad Holt. I'm from the Essendon Football Club. I'm the Myotherapy Coordinator and Sports Trainer. I've got Michael Hartley here helping me out today as a model. We're going to take you through how to tape an ankle. Basically, you tape an ankle if they've rolled their ankle, even if it's minor or major, if they've had to have surgery. Regardless, you tape their ankle just to restrict the amount of movement they'll have in their ankle and give them a bit more confidence to play. Just bring your foot up for us. Cheers. So you try to get their foot at 90 degrees. You'd start off with a little anchor. So you don't want the anchor too high that it's going to cut off their calf, because that can potentially give them cramps. You don't want it too low, because that's just going to be ineffective and a waste of your time and tape, unfortunately. So followed by that, you'll do a couple of stirrups. So with each stirrup, you just want to fan slightly forward. So you start that one as back as possible. Try to keep it off the heel, and you don't want to come as far forward as the metatarsals. So you fan these. Fan these and just put the last one with a little bit of an angle on it, and that way you cover your malleoluses. So next you want to do a couple of sixes. So make sure you don't go too tight around the front, because that can cause tape cuts through the front of their foot or front of their ankle, and that's not very pleasant to play with, unfortunately. You can put some stuff down in front of it. There's microfoam, or even just like band-aid pads and that to stop it. But the more you do it, you should be able to get comfortable with putting the right amount of pressure through the front. So once they're down, you can go a little bit tighter with the next couple. So you just do a couple more sixes, and with each one, you just tape your portion off and put a little bit of tension to it, so that way restricting movement. So depending on which way they roll it, so obviously you can have an inversion or eversion sprain. You're obviously going to focus more on one side than the other. Whereas if it's just a preventative one, most of our players get taped before training sessions and before games, even if they're completely clear, and it's just going to restrict their movements of going in and out. So last six. So I do three stirrups, 3 sixes, well, 6 sixes, 3 each side, and I basket weave them just so that it gives a little bit more even tension throughout the ankle as you're doing it, rather than putting too much tension or either side. If they've had an injury, you might put a couple more, depending on which way they're trying to restrict movement. So if they're trying to restrict your rolling in like that, out, sorry, you want to come out and put a few more sixes that way, just to hold it all in place together. So next, you'd put your heel lock. So you start up the top, and it's basically just a figure 8 going around behind the Achilles, just holding the ankle in place. So once again, you don't want to put too much tension around where the Achilles is, because once again you can get a tape cut, and that's no fun. go. And then you just finish it off with a anchor. So once again, that's just for, we use it as preventative. So virtually every player will get taped before training and before games to restrict the amount of injuries. It's obviously not going to stop you from rolling your ankle, but it will restrict how far you actually roll your ankle and the potential ramifications of rolling your ankle. So it could put a surgical one down to a couple of weeks if you have it taped or if you don't have it taped. So it's always good to get it taped. If you have rolled your ankle, as I said, you'd probably put a couple more sixes either side depending on which way you're trying to restrict movement. You might also put a little bit of a wrap around it, so which I'll quickly show you. So basically that's just a figure eight. You basically just doing the reverse. You do your heel locks. And then come up, finish up the top. And then just anchor it off again so it's all nicely in place and it doesn't come off while they're running or playing. So that's how you, and that just adds a little bit more a little bit more security to the ankle. So thank you very much, and that's how you do an ankle.
Hi, my name's Sharon Quennell. I work for Aon Risk Solutions. My role there is as Client Director of the Health Practice Group for Australia. I look after a team of 10 operators that service the needs of over 45,000 allied health professionals, some of whom you would speak to fairly regularly. Professional indemnity insurance is different than public liability insurance. Professional indemnity insurance's core purpose is to provide protection for the risks attaching to you as you operate as a therapist. So it provides cover for your omissions, errors and malpractice. Public liability insurance's core purpose is to provide protection for claims that third parties might make against you for damage to their property or their person. So there are different insurance covers. Medical malpractice is really just another name for professional indemnity for medical health professionals. Professional indemnity provides cover for legal defence costs if somebody brings a claim against you. It also provides defence costs or protection for lawyers' fees should you be called to appear in an investigation or an inquiry. And also if there's an adjudication made in a court of law, it'll pay that award and or amount to settle a claim. So that's its core purpose. Public liability, an example of how that will respond is if somebody was to walk into your premises and perhaps trip over a mat and hurt themselves, then the insurance policy would respond to pay the claim for those injuries. And another example of how it might respond would be if you inadvertently perhaps stepped on a patient's backpack and it had a laptop in it and you damaged it, it would pay for that response as well. Professional indemnity, we have available limits of between $2 million and $20 million, so you can choose 2, 5, 10 or 20. And Aon's cover for Massage and Myotherapy Association also provides $10 million of public liability insurance as an automatic cover under that professional indemnity policy. But if you need more than that, if you need $20 million, you can ask for that and we can provide that as well. Cover for your clinic premises and its contents is usually taken out by way of a business insurance policy, and we can certainly help you with that. If you're looking for protection for a physical premises where you may operate out of other than your own home, you will need to buy a business insurance policy, but don't automatically think if you are operating out of your home that you're covered. You do need to check in about that because sometimes insurers exclude cover for incidences that arise when you're in your own home premises where you're earning a living. So do call the service team and they'll be able to talk you through that. So if you were to take, for instance, a massage table away from your premises, and the question is, are you covered for that piece of equipment away from your premises? That cover is available, but it's not automatically available under every cover, so you should speak to us to make sure that the cover, we can tailor the cover to your needs. But so don't just assume it's covered, speak to a service operator to make sure that it is. Members often also ask us, what else does Aon do? And it's probably worth noting that we also are able to provide you with risk retirement health solutions for any stage of your career or your personal life. So it might be professional indemnity insurance that you need, or it could be advice or a solution around superannuation or income protection, or even travel insurance if you're taking a break. Yes, the Aon Insurance solution does provide a standalone limit for each member. So what that means is if you take out a $5 million professional indemnity policy, you have $5 million available to you for any claims that you might need to make in that 12-month period. Now, there is alternate models out there in the market, and some associations choose to buy a limit that, for instance, they might buy a $20 million limit that is available for all members. So if they have 1,000 members of their association, or 1,000 members then access that one $20 million limit. And so they're effectively sharing in a $20 million limit, as opposed to, in the first example, having access to their own $5 million limit. Now, there's pros and cons in all models. It's just really important that therapists understand what it is that they're buying.
Hi, I'm Carrie from Recharge Class. Today we want to play wrist extensors, our lovely little guys. Jess has got the small ones, the small balls. Again, one over each, or sort of cord over the forearm. If you don't have these tools, certainly I would definitely recommend putting, say, a golf ball or something in a thick sock, so it stops you from dropping it on the ground. So what we want is, again, the preparation is very important for this one. So we want to find ourselves in a little squat, have the balls over, and our arm is hooked into our hip. So we want to put that work from our hip rather than from our arm. So Jess, have you got it lined up beautifully? Nice. And you want, again, yes, beautiful, that floppy wrist so we can have a nice release into those extensors rather than it coming from, or rather holding on while you're trying to create that change. Yep, lovely. And so then the other bit, of course, is once we've found one spot that's a little sore, don't just stop there. There may well be others, so do another line and another line and another line until you feel like you've done that whole forearm. And for those who just want that little bit more, when you find a little something, when you're on a little sore spot, lifting the wrist and releasing the wrist, lifting the wrist and releasing the wrist, yeah. So that really loads it up much more, yeah. Yeah. So only do that if that feels comfortable for you. Lovely. Thank you.